All right, hello everyone. Today we're going to be doing a little tutorial about a slightly easier way to make graphics in Illustrator. In the past, I think I've shown you guys how to make graphics straight in Illustrator using this tool. And this is still a legit way to make the graphics, but I think this new way is going to be probably a lot more efficient. And the main benefit is that it's a lot easier to edit the data if you have to go back and make a change. So our final result is gonna look something like this, and we're gonna start off in Google Sheets to get us going here. So what I have here is a spreadsheet of data that I pulled from the IU COVID dashboard. Um, I pulled it from these trends. I've pulled all of these data points starting from the beginning of the year, and we're gonna go ahead and graph this. So the first thing you do in Sheets to make the graph, just select the area that you want to include, click Insert, and then click Chart. So now this will generate a chart. It'll automatically put the variables where it thinks they should go. I'm going to make some changes here because, as you can see, the positivity rate is super low numerically compared to the other variables, so you literally can't see it at all, so that's not helpful. So I'm going to go ahead and move this to a combo chart, which will allow us to do the line and bar overlay. And I'll make the stacking standard, which will make it stacking the bars instead of putting them next to each other. Then in customize, I'm going to go ahead and go to the vertical axis. Actually, no, I'll go to series, and then I'll select positivity rate. And then this is where we'll be able to make it kind of a proportional view because I'm going to change this to right axis. So that's just going to put an additional axis on here. And as you can see, these are really small numbers since it's in percents. So this just made our yellow line visible, and now we're able to see it and compare it more easily to the other one. And then the last thing we're going to have to do is make the negative results a bar instead of a line. So now this is looking pretty good. This is the format we want to have for this data. And now we can go ahead and maybe make a few tweaks and then export it. So when you export from Google Sheets to SVG, one thing that's kind of annoying is you're unable to change the text. It'll export the text as an object. So if you want, you can make changes on here before exporting, or you can just completely reformat the text in Illustrator, which is what I'm going to do so you can have the right fonts. So I don't think there's much else I'm going to want to change on here before putting it in Illustrator. So I'll go ahead and export it. But if you want, you can always make more changes on here before putting it over there. Some of those could be easier, especially if you're maybe more well-versed in Sheets than Illustrator. It could be easier to just customize it a lot on this end and then finalize it over here with just a few final touches. But I'm going to go ahead and do most of the formatting in Illustrator. So if you click on these three dots on the chart, there is a download option, and you're able to download it as a SVG, which is super nice because that makes all the little moving parts customizable, and you can completely edit it to your liking rather than like the PNG, which just exports a flat PNG and you can't change anything. So thank you, Google Sheets, for making this option. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and open this file that I just downloaded, the SVG file. It'll automatically open in Illustrator. This little error keeps showing up for me. Honestly, I don't really know what it means, but it's never caused me any issues, so I just have been ignoring it. All right, so now we have our graph. Um, so yeah, you can see that all the little parts able to be moved. And you can see that the text is all little objects, so it's not editable, but this is a really nice starting point for us to just have the data already in there, and we can just go ahead and start formatting. So one thing that you will notice as well, when you click on one of the bars, you can move it, and only one bar will move, but there's this big box around it. That's because all of these different parts of the graph are in their own clipping mask, which is really annoying to deal with. So the first thing I'm going to do is select, I'm just going to, oops. Oh, another thing is it exports with a white background, so you can just delete that. So I'm going to select this, which, since I've selected this little perimeter, all of the different clipping masks have the same exact dimension. So if I just drag over and select that area, it'll select all of them. And as you can see, if I'll move this, it'll move the entire graph because they're all kind of grouped together that way. And then I'm just going to go to release mask. I'm pretty sure if you go to object, there's a way to release the mask if you go to clipping mask and then click release. So now all these should be their own object. So you can see if I move it, it's only like selecting the actual area of the bar, which is much easier to do. And then now we just have all these like empty, useless boxes. So I'll just select those, make sure there's nothing in there, and then delete all of them. So yeah, now we should be good to go with our editing. All of these are pretty accessible. So I'll go ahead and copy and paste this into this other file because I want to have these dimensions. So, all right, here we go. The next thing I'm going to do, I just want to kind of mimic this exact same style. So I want to use the same fonts and colors, etc. So I'll just be like referring to this and then applying the same styles to this. So I'll go ahead and copy this headline, delete this, and then I'll just use the same headline because it's actually the exact same data set. It just has one additional data point. So I'll just keep the same title. Another thing you'll notice is these bars all have a rounded top, which it looks pretty aesthetic, but I'm just going to change it because our style is to just have like a flat top on the bars. So you can quickly change that by holding down Command and then pulling on these circles. So it'll get rid of that rounding. I think you can do it all at the same time. So try to be faster, but it backfired. But anyway, I'll just continue getting rid of those little rounded edges. All right, so I guess I'll also get rid of the edges on these. Oops. On these little key things. Okay, so I can also change the colors. On this graph, I decided to make the positive test a darker color so it would show up more dramatically since these are smaller and harder to see, so I thought they kind of got lost being the lighter color. So I'll just copy this, and I'll have these two colors available. And then something you can do, since there's only the only instance of this color is in all the bars in the key. If you do select same appearance, it'll select all of the red things, and then I can just color match these to this. And I can do the same for this color. Select same appearance, color match to this. So now we have those right. I think I also changed the yellow color to be IDS's yellow. So I'll go ahead and change these as well. All right. So I can go ahead and change the axes now. we use a dashed line rather than a solid line, so I'll go ahead and color match this again. It looks like I used 0.5 width, and then I used this gray and made it with a 3-point dash. So now that's there, and I'll go ahead and copy this to get the styling for the left axis. So I'll just delete this and then align this to the bar. And then I can copy it and then replace the other numbers as well. So 10,000, 7,500, 5,000, and should be 0. Okay, so I'll go ahead and right align all of these so that they are closer to the bars. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that looks like a fine distance away. And then I'll just align this to that. Then I want the lines to line up exactly with the bottom of the letters. So go ahead and add these guides so I can see what's going on, and then align all of these. Alright, so now these are all aligned to the lines, and I can go ahead and do the same with the X on the other side. These numbers actually don't align with the same bars, so I'm gonna make sure to just leave them exactly where they are so they align correctly. Yeah, because there's one fewer measurement on this side than this side, so they're slightly further apart. But I'll copy this and then yeah, instead of putting 0.08, I'm just going to put 8%. So people know that that's the measurement we're using. 6%, 4%, and 0%. And then I'll just align these directly. So we have all these. I'll go ahead and delete these and then push these in and then make it 5 points away just like the other side. Okay, so now I'll format the bottom axis, and I'll just do the same formatting where we have the lines indicating the in-between ones instead of putting an actual label for every single one. Well, I'll just pull this down so I can refer to it. So I'll also grab this and replace the black line with that line. So grab the black line. It's kind of hard to grab. And then you can also see that these are here. These are just points that were 0 because there was no testing for these days, so I'll just delete these. And then this can go right exactly along the bottom of the bars. Alright, so the first one is August 23rd. I'll align this to this, and this to this, and this to this. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so the next one was September 20th. Then I'll just go ahead and copy these. Okay, so now we have our axis set up, and then I'll just copy this and replace this. All right, so now I'll just also get this key and replace this key, which is just with objects. All right, so it's looking pretty good. Um, and then the next thing we can do, as you can see, there's all these little circles on here, but they're empty. And I want to add some points on the edge of this graph. So I'm gonna go through and fill these in. I'm just gonna try and find them. And then this is probably something that you could have customized in Google Sheets, but I just didn't take the time to look for the option. But I'm sure you could add dots on the line within Google Sheets. Okay, so it's looking pretty good. The last thing that I want to show you guys is how to change the dimensions of the graph while keeping it accurate. So this is a really important part of the process that you need to know how to do correctly, or else your graph could get like stretched out in a weird way that will make it inaccurate, and that's really, really bad. So you need to make sure you're doing it correctly. You can see that this one is like taller than this one, so it has been stretched a bit. As long as everything is staying proportional, it will be fine. But we just need to make sure that we are staying proportional. So I think what I'm going to do, just so that I can make sure that I'm keeping these proportional when I change it, I'm going to add some lines under here so I can know where to align these two. Okay, so when I change the size, I want to make sure that I grab these, the bars, and the line. I do not want to grab the numbers or the dots, because if I stretch those out, they're going to look weird. So rather than stretching those, I'm just going to realign them later. So the first thing I'll do is, oops, not that. I'm going to grab all of these lines, group them, so I can easily move them all. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and align these the way that I want them to be in the end, and then I'll just stretch the graph to be to that size. Okay, that looks pretty good. Yeah, and then I'll just grab all the circles and group them together. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and select everything that I want to stretch. Let me add some guides to show where I want the top to be. Probably like here would be good for the top. And I'll just move this out of the way. Okay, so now I'm going to select everything that I want to stretch. So making sure that I have all the bars and the lines in this bounding box. Now I'm going to deselect the circles, and I'm going to deselect the numbers. And then I'm going to stretch this down to reach the bar, and then I'll stretch it up to reach the top line at the top. Okay, so we've stretched it. Now you can see that the numbers are all messed up and the dots are all messed up, but we have everything proportional, so we can just replace those in the right place, then everything will be okay. So I'll start by realigning these. And then I'll go into this dotted group and just pull these until they. So now we have everything realigned, and I'll go ahead and put this back in. And then I guess one more thing that I usually do is look through and see if there's some sort of like takeaway that we can add. So for example, on this graph, I added this little note saying last week saw the most ever test and lowest ever positivity rate, which actually I believe could literally be copied and applied to the new week, because I think the most tests got even higher and the positivity rate got even lower. But I'll just, I won't do that for now. But the way I formatted that, I just added this little line, and then I put a white box on top of the bar behind this to make it not have a cluttered background. And then I guess I do want to add these two so that we can clarify why we don't have data for those two little chunks. So I'll add these here and then add a white thing behind them so that the bar isn't in the way. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. Okay, one final thing I realized, we need to add these two labels on our respective axes. So number of tests, positivity rate. So now people will know what they're looking at. I'm gonna make this a little bigger so that I can fit these. And I can center these 1, 2, 3. So if I group these two together and then grab these, I can align it to these and it'll be in the middle. And then I can also align this to the middle. Okay. So yeah, this is just an example of how you can take a graph from Sheets, export it, and then format it to IDS style relatively easily. Yeah, I think the nicest thing about this is just the ability to still have all this really flexible. If I want to go in and I realize, oh, like I made a mistake, this should actually be 20,000 this week for some reason, then I can go in and change it. It'll automatically change, and then this example or the source that I'm using will be easy to just re-download, and then I can reformat it. So I just think it's a much safer way to work with data and ensure that you'll be able to um, check your work a lot more easily than if you're just like copying and pasting this into Illustrator, like, and then you have to unlink it from the data to be able to edit it. That's just a lot more like dangerous of a way to work with these graphs. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the tutorial and look forward to seeing your guys' graphs with this new technique.